Hello everybody, I think we're all up and running. Yet again, it's Wednesday. Well, first and foremost, flipping heck. Hello everyone who's already here. Steve Perry, how are you doing? You're not waiting for me, are you? I've just been to flipping Kentucky Fried Chicken. Jesus flipping heck. It's like there was no queue whatsoever, paid at the counter, no problem, get round to the window where they served the bloody food. It took them 10 minutes to come up to the window and say, "What was your order again?" And then another further 10 minutes to get my order. It was only a six-piece bargain bucket. 20 minutes I was sat at that flipping counter waiting for it. Let me try and figure out where we are. I'm going to try and get through some of the... I won't keep it too long tonight. It's really hot in here and the kids got the fan upstairs, so I'm kind of melting. DOC Savage 1. Hello, how are you doing? Mike, hello. Right comment, hello, how are you? Chris Hockin, hi, how are you doing? Jordan, hi Jordan. You should do a stream as well, mate. I will actually come onto your stream. Catch up with you, mate. But hey, how are you doing? Sean Oliver, hello, how are you? Oh, it's all right. I'm going to start putting... Why does this do this? Does anybody have a Mac? It's like all of a sudden, right? I've just got the mouse in my hand. I'm not even clicking the bloody goddamn thing, right? And you know, like your whole everything on the web page sort of like is amplified, like ballooned in front of you, like I don't even know how it happens. I'm gonna get it back to actual size. That's better. Right. The Billy. Hi, Billy. Right. Was that you in the veto? Veto. It's a bloody veto. It was van of the year 2005, I believe. It's a Veto 109 CDI. It's all primer paint. It's a bad example now because it's getting on. Yes, I am. It's a white Veto van. I will die with that van. I will not. I refuse to buy a new car. Stefan Allen. Hi, Stefan. I am loving the sun. I'm actually glad we got the heat wave. I know everyone moans it's too hot and all that. The trouble is when you're working, I understand it's hell on earth sometimes. Depends where you're working. But if you're not working and you just got nothing to do and you can go for a stroll or whatever, I absolutely love this weather. It's not hot enough. Robert Mustard, hi Robert. ROJ Reviews, hello, how are you? Benjamin Schmid, hi, how are you? Nothing better than birthday a beer and your live stream. My flipping, I'm not going to show a beer again. If I drink a beer on here, I'm not going to show the bottle because I think they done me for copyright. YouTube did. I might have been. It was either that or it was me slagging off the BBC. It was one of the two. Steve Perry, hi, how are you? To produce hydrogen from solar power, you need a large area like a desert. Same that the petrol comes from. I don't think solar power is very good, especially when the sun goes behind the clouds. Let me Alan Cobbin, finger licking good. Unfortunately, I only managed to get the chips. The kid had the chicken. Hi, Ben. How are you doing? I'm doing great, by the way. Well, I hope you're doing well as well. Ivelin, I can't say your name. Bodkilev, how are you? I'm very good, thank you. Don't try to read my name. I just did. I can't do it. Just say Ivan. Ivan, that's better. Brilliant. My first question is, what if you change only one or two of the injectors on the 1.6, 2 litre, 2.5 TDC? To be honest with you, I would only change the ones that needed changing. If I've got, like, say for instance, you're putting your foot down, it goes into limp mode, and you get like a low fuel pressure code, and you do an injector leak off test, and say just one injector out of 4 is leaking off far too much, and it's definitely faulty, I would only replace the one injector, because they're very expensive. That's why people don't do it. I mean, if the whole car's done like 200,000 miles, you might say to yourself, well, hell, what the hell? I'll just fling $1,000 at it and change them all. But you don't have to. You only have to change literally the ones that are faulty, and it'll run fine. It all comes down to cost at the end of the day. But it's not going to make any difference. Is this going to put more load on the injectors that are still in decent condition and destroy them fast? And is it creating a disbalance in the engine? Not really. You wouldn't even notice a difference. If an injector is, you've got to understand, these diesel engines, these common rail diesel engines, they have to be running so precise. I mean, years ago, you could have injectors that worked with spray pattern. Instead of like atomizing it out like a funnel, they would more or less like spray straight into the cylinder, and you would get a misfire. And for an injector to actually start causing an imbalance in one of the cylinders, it would have to be seriously wrong in the first place. So don't worry about it. I mean, it's up to you. If you feel worried about it, I know what they say, but it depends on the mileage. If it's a hell of a lot of miles on the car, and you just want to change them all, you can do. But if it's just one injector that's playing up, I would personally just change the one and save the money. And there's a high chance you might even get rid of that car before any of the other injectors pack up. So it depends how much you want to spend and how worried you are about it. I'm certainly not worried about changing one at a time. Suj, hello, how are you? Time check. Right, let me try and get through a few of these comments. Gareth Shepherd, hi Gareth. Which Mondeo has the best aircon? Mark 4 or 5? I should think the 5, probably. There are some cars, some makes of cars that are just like, the moment you switch that AC button on, they are like flipping heck. They are freezing cold, and other cars are just sort of like take their time. They're just not. I reckon a lot of it comes down to the AC system that's fitted in these cars. I got in as a Honda. I got into a Honda Accord or something. It was brilliant, and yet I know I don't want to stake the Mondeos off, but they're not great when it comes to sort of like keeping the car really cold inside. When you compare it to like other cars like Volvo, I've got in a Volvo, flip it. It's like, there's a hell of a difference. It's quite unbelievable how different two AC systems in a car can be. How one can be so much quicker and colder than the other. But there again, they do say, if you got like a thermometer, like a one you put in your mouth, I guess, you can stick it down your air vent. And if you can get 4 degrees above 0, then the AC system's working pretty good. To actually get it down to 4 degrees, I mean, don't be under the impression that it should be 0, otherwise things will be icing up inside the car. It's never below 0, the AC inside the car. It's always above. But if you're between 4 and 6 degrees in the car, it's doing pretty well. Uh, lol. Kevin Blaylock, hiya, how are you doing? Hello, Siad. Hello from the other side. You'd be saying, hello from the dark side. Thank you very much for joining. Mondeo daft as a brush. Evening, good evening. Where's the trooper money? Okay, I don't think she's going to be coming on, but just to show I'm willing to actually push the boat. I have live. If you fancy 30 seconds. Right, I've sent her a message. I said to her, I mean, you can't. She is going to come on at some point, but she's kind of like got other things going on. I don't have much of a life, people, so I'm quite happy to sit here. I'm at home anyway. Ruskatil, do you still hold full range of spares for Mark III? We do. Well, the trouble is, we've got a lot of Mark III rentals. They're all 1.8 and 2 litre Duratec HE petrols. When we've had cars like smashed up, because the main people that rent these cars are Americans, and from time to time they'll write a car off, and we'll just strip them. If they're not repairable, we'll strip them all their bits and keep all the bits. But we keep like brakes and stuff like that, filters and stuff, which are all aftermarket parts. We don't buy genuine Ford stuff for these cars because they're so old now. But we do keep. We've got like a shed up at car sales, and it's chock-a-block with used parts of doors and God only knows what's in there. Every time you want a part, you have to spend half a day looking for what you want. The Billy, best regards from Bosnia. Hello there in Bosnia, Billy. Freedom. I wish we had flipping freedom, especially from this bloody government. They say we're free, but we'll see by autumn. Hi from Estonia. Flipping heck. Hello over there. Skull 5. Nice to see you. Nice to see you too. Andrew Smith. Hi, Andrew. Love to fix my own Mark V if it's within my capability, and your vids are invaluable. Cheers, and keep up the good work. I'll try my best, but I'm running out of ideas now. The funny thing is, this week I've actually got nothing going. The only thing I've got two jobs which I could possibly like do a really quick video on. Is one's a Mercedes. It's a convertible E350. It's front shock absorbers. I don't know if you know, when you take the springs off the front shock absorbers, the actual plunger gets sucked inside the shock absorber, and you have to sort of like, I think it's a special tool to hold them out so you can fit the new spring on. But we just use a pair of mole grips. But I might do a quick one on that. And I've got that old Mark V 2 litre diesel engine in the shed, and it's still got the turbo on it. And I've never actually shown Ben, who I done the clutch on. He had all the clutch problems. He has got the white Vignale Mondeo. He come down the other day and saw me. We stood there for must have been about an hour and a half chat. And he brought me some chocolate as well for me. It was lovely. But I'm losing my train of thought. I'm thinking about this chocolate. Hang on a minute. Yeah, I gave him a cylinder head that was scrap. I only kept it for like the rockers and stuff, and it had a turbo on it because I didn't need it, and I thought I was only going to give it to scrap man anyway. But I've got this other engine in the shed. It's got a turbo on it, and I have never shown how this turbo comes off or how you would change a turbo on a Mark V. We have only ever done one because I think the turbos on these cars are ever so good. So I might do a video on that. The engine's all sitting there out of the car, so I could kind of explain how you would do it in the car and what you would need to take off. So I might do that. But apart from that, I've really got nothing much going on at the moment. Grinder one, hi Grinder. Russ Dandy, hi Russ. Just got a bit cloudy up in Bury, Manchester. We are all melting. Did you have a look at the Goon Squad on YouTube? Worth a look at these two young ones. Stay cool, drink wine and ice. I've not seen them, no. There's many, do you know, there's so many channels here that are probably absolutely fantastic. But it's finding the time to actually watch them. But I'll keep that one in mind. I'll see if I can get a chance to have a look at it. Darren Callaghan, hello. What gear oil do a Mark IV 2.2 use? Mine just turned 100k miles. To be totally exact, I mean, it's normally like a 75 W80 or 90. You're probably best, because all the registrations of the cars are on computer now, like all the motor factors, you're probably best, just to be damn sure, is to ring the motor factors up and give them your registration number and say what gearbox oil, and they'll be able to tell you straight away off their computer. That's the best way to do it. John Ladd, hi John. Yep, I'm good. Still kicking. Sultan 30 ARL. Hi Sultan. You've got 2004 ST220. Do you fancy some work on it for me? It depends what it is. I can't really do any projects at the moment. It's sort of like I've got quite a lot on as it is. But if it's like a specific job, we may well be able to do it. You'd have to sort of like give us a ring and let us know. John Mullaney, hi John. You've not had any central locking problems on the Mark IV Potato. Very rare, to be honest with you. Very rare. Generally speaking, because them central locking, the door latch, central locking motor and everything is built into one assembly. I mean, they either flip out or go wrong and break, or stop working. It's normally on the back doors. It's the central locking, not central locking. It's the child lock, because they've got electronic child locks. That's the part that usually plays up. But they can jam. Something can go wrong and they can jam, and you can't free them off. And once you do get inside the door, it's best just to get another second-hand unit and bung it in. They're easy enough to change. Well, the front doors are easier than the back doors, but pretty rare to have problems with them. JPB, hi. Had a new problem turn up with my 2008 2-litre TDSI Mondeo. It went into engine malfunction and have codes for the DPS. Illogical DPF values, and it said the DPF burn couldn't be started. If it's a 2008, it won't. I'm pretty sure it won't have that vaporizer nozzle on it. You're probably best looking at the two rubber hoses that go off the DPF. There's two rubber pipes, and they go up to like a sampler unit. If the rubber hoses are burnt out, that would probably be your problem. There's not a heck of a lot can go wrong with them DPFs. Generally speaking, for them rubber hoses are either burnt out or they're blocked. And they can be sort of like, they might not even look blocked. You want to stick an airline up them, blow an airline through them, make sure they're definitely cleared out. Steve, two-tone rust and ferrous oxide, veto. The actual, the rust colour was a primer filler. I ain't using it again because it's not worth it, but I just spray it once a year now, primer. I paid for that van many years ago, and now I don't spend nothing on vehicles. But I only drive to work and back, you see. So a nice flashy car would be wasted on me. I've got no one to impress. So if I had a decent woman to impress, then maybe, but I don't. So I just get in my rusty old van and come home. Nigel MP, good evening, Nigel. You have a great sense of humour, bright as well. Well, thank you, Nigel. I don't always have a sense of humour. I do get the hump from time to time. Usually at work, that is, though. When I get the wrong job, I get some shit I don't want to do, or I see the wrong taxi driver. I see red. Pat Kelly, hi Pat. Hope you're not melting away over there. It's fairly warm in here. It's like, whoo! I've got one of them proper big, like fans, big metal thing that I bought. It was on offer, but you see the kids upstairs on his PlayStation, and that's far more important. So, is Monica making an appearance? I don't think she will be tonight, but possibly in a few weeks' time. I think she will. She has said she will do. She will pop in 1 week. So it's definitely on the cards. But she won't be staying for long, I shouldn't think, because she's always got something to do. She's got a lot of mates. So, but she will come in and say hello, and we'll have a little chat while she's here. But yeah, it will be nice. Colin Paton, any problems with the Mark V Mondeo aircon? That's a very good question, because the simple answer to that is no. As long as there's the newer type gas, that Y1234 whatever it is, F or something. The later Mark V's after 2017, I think, they had the newer style gas in them, and you've got to find someone who's got the machine, because they got different size connectors. But I've had no issues with them aircon systems whatsoever. They just seem to work. No leaks, no nothing. Well, of course, unless one of our drivers has smashed the condenser in, which is the normal thing. But no, they seem to be a very robust aircon system at the moment, working well. Benjamin Smythe, F them for copyright. They never tell you, though. They never tell you. But I think because I had my bottle and I had Beck's beer, and I'm holding my bottle like that. Hey, everybody, I got my Beck's beer. YouTube probably said, no, that's copyright. You're advertising. It probably wasn't even that. It was probably because I was slating the BBC. Someone didn't like it. But I'm not giving the BBC no money. They can't have it. They waste it. They waste it on shit that's no good for any of us lot. Tony Rees, hello, Alan from Spain. Blimey, hello over there in Spain. Have you had any issues with MMT6 gearbox, as in gear or bearing noises? I'm not referring to the dual mass flywheel noises. On the Mark IV, I can't even recall a single time where we've had any bearings worn out in a gearbox on one of them. Not a single time. It's either been crunching in third or second gear, or the one I had the other week, where you put it into like second gear and it jumps out of gear because the little teeth off the synchro had stripped. But never have we had to bother with a bearing or a bearing noise. I had a Nissan Micra once. It was an old Nissan Micra, and there was a bearing gone in that, and it sounded like a flipping aeroplane taking off. But no bearing noises whatsoever. Mick Ramo, hi Mick. How's Danny your Vito? It's still holding on. It's still kind of like staying together. It's got some body filler on it, and it's got more paint on it than metal now, but it's still going. The engine's rather sweet still. So I would just keep driving it. Best regards from Bosnia. Thank you, Billy. Luke, hello from Swansea. Blimey. Wales. Where was it? If I can think of the name of the... I've been to a few places over there. I've been to Barry Island, and I was there when they had that what was it? That train where they put all the old trains. They laid them all up. The train graveyard. When I was a kid, I walked around that, and there was like all these like hundreds and hundreds of old trains. It was like fucking. It's like, wow, I love this place. It's better than a scrapyard. Burke Barak, hello. Is it necessary to bleed the slave clutch cylinder? What are the signs of one that isn't bled? Well, you shouldn't have to bleed it unless there's a problem somewhere. And if it's on a Mondeo Mark 4 or 5, if you change a clutch, and you change the slave cylinder, then yes, you do bleed them. But you would put a pipe. The simplest form is to put a pipe off the bleeder into a bottle half filled with brake fluid, so the air can't get sucked back when you lift the pedal up, and you can just pump the pedal with your hand until the fluid's running out. That's it. They're only going to play up if like they're sucking in air for something, or there's a problem somewhere, in which case the pedal would gradually get like it would kind of like sit halfway down. It would sit lower down than it's supposed to sit, and you wouldn't be able to put it in gear because you're not getting enough clutch movement. So you can imagine your brakes there and your clutch is here. Your pedal would sit further down, and you wouldn't be able to push it down as far. It'd have less travel because you're getting air in the system. But there'd be a problem somewhere. There'd be a pipe or a seal leaking air in. So, but once they're bled, if there's no problems, you shouldn't have to touch them again ever until something goes wrong. What's the lifespan of a turbo on a Mark IV? Pretty much the life of the car. Going on the assumption that the car's been maintained, it's had the proper oil changes and everything done at the right intervals, I would say you'd probably never have to change it. I mean, I've had turbos we had a bunch of Peugeot Expert Euro cabs. They were like the old E7s, but they were terrible. We were forever changing flipping turbos and them bloody things. They were useless. But the 2-litre TDCIs, you'd be very unlucky if you have a turbo blow on you or wear out. I mean, I've had some turbos go before, but I've never had one go. All our cars that I can remember, from like all our 12 to 14 plates, and there's been a lot of them, we've never had a turbo go. Not one. No, they're ever so good. But we do service the cars properly. I mean, we give them the right oil changes at the right time. Brian 22640. Hi, Brian. Mark IV Mondeo, squeaky rear suspension. Garage thinks it might be the shock tops. Have you come across this? Not on a Mark IV, I haven't. I'll take it. It's just like a saloon. In fact, I can't really think of anything that squeaks on the back of a Mark IV. Usually, if you've got it, if you can hear the squeak, like if you've got your hands on the boot or whatever, and you're bouncing it, and you can hear the squeak, the best thing is to get somebody underneath there and try and listen for whereabouts it is. But no, I have had practically zero. I think it is zero problems with the rear shocks on the Mark IV. I know the Mark Vs. That is Mark IV. I know on the Mark Vs they have a top mount, and they do wear out, but you don't get a squeak, you get a knocking. But no, not on the Mark IV. The shocks have been really good. Stevie G. Hi, Stevie. Any idea why glow plugs will stay on, causing the battery feed wire to melt? This happens only when started. 09 1.8 TD site focus, checked relays, and all is fine. Well, you've either got a bad earth somewhere on your wiring, which is probably more to the point, but the relay, I mean, when you switch the ignition on, the relay will put the power to the glow plugs. Once you start the engine, it will carry on. It will leave the feed to the glow plugs for so many seconds after the engine has started, and then the relay should switch off. So the power shouldn't be to the glow plugs permanently all the time. Generally speaking, if something's burning out, you've either got loose terminals, loose or corroded wiring going onto the glow plugs, or on the wiring loom associated with the relay, there's a bad earth around that area somewhere, I would say. You're just going to be a case of sort of like trying to make a good search all around all the wiring in that area and make sure everything's in good condition. Maybe unbolt all your earths, clean them all up and put them all back. Take the relay out and check all the terminals as well. Make sure there isn't a rusty one or something like that. And they're all, especially make sure the terminals where they plug into the relay and stuff like that, they're all making good contact, because sometimes these like spade connectors and stuff like that, they can get like opened up a bit. And even though you push the relay and they're not making a very good connection, that can cause all kinds of shit like that. Right, are we going to have a meetup? I'm only in Goddy. Yeah, come down, come down to the garage. I'll put the kettle on. Hey, we could take a selfie, put it on the YouTube community post. Yeah, anything. Bring your car down. We'll put it on the community, put it on the post as well. Yeah, I'm up for anything. Yeah, anyone who wants to sort of like, if you ever pass in the garage, please stop in and say hello. RTH Animations, do you really need special expensive oil for that engine? If it's the what engine? Do you mean the Mark V Mondeo engine? 030. Well, I think because of the way these engines, the tolerances in them in these days are so much more precise than what they used to be, in order for them to work and keep the emissions down to the levels they have to keep them down to. I know the oil is expensive, but I'd probably use what is recommended. Yeah, I would. Definitely. You'll notice that there's so many, no matter what car you buy, there seems to be a specific oil for that car and that engine. So, I mean, I guess these things are tried and tested in laboratories or wherever they build these cars. And so, yeah, I would definitely, if it's a nice car and it's worth a lot of money, I would spend the money on the proper oil. Unless, of course, you're getting rid of it, then it's up to you, whatever you do. Kay Stedman, hi. What's your opinion on the E90? Not really had anything to do with them. But if you're into BMWs, I don't know. It depends what you like. There's so many out there. I'm not really familiar with that one at all. I've never had much to do with BMWs at all. So I can't really sort of like give you. I can't even tell you what I think of them. I'd have to sort of like know them a bit better, but I haven't got no experience on them, so I can't really answer that one. Kevin Blaylock, get yourself a CPL of Kenlo fans in the office. Kenlo, they're the expensive ones. That's what you want, and that's what you want cooling your radiator down. A flipping great big Kenlo fan, one great big massive one, should keep you, should cool you down. That's what they used to do in cars of the past, isn't it? Get rid of the bloody silly little fan and stick a great big bloody Kenlo fan in it. It's actually getting cooler in here now. It's not too bad. Pete, hi Pete. Does the dashboard have to come out to change the heater matrix on the Mark IV? God, I don't think I've done a heater matrix on a Mark IV. I don't think I have. I've done plenty of Mark IIIs, in which case you don't have to take the dash out. The Mark IV, I've never done one. That's a really good question. I'm kind of figuring. I'll have to look into that. I'll see if I can find out some more. I know on the Mark V, as I found out, because I made a video on it, on the Mark V, I do know that the dash and the heater unit, with everything on it, comes out as one great big huge assembly, and it's put in there by bloody robots with the doors off. What a flipping job that is! I mean, I guess it's straightforward once you know how to do it. If you've got half a dozen people to lift it all out, but as far as the Mark IV goes, I'm not sure. I've never done them, so I will look into that. I'll try and find out. Nomadic Mechanic, good evening. How are you? Mick Ramo, I soaked my injectors in apple cider vinegar for 24 hours. It worked fine. I can tell you a story, you know. Years ago, we, going back to these bloody Peugeot E7 things, horrible bloody things. The injectors would seize in them, and we used all sorts of things from like carburetor cleaner to Coca-Cola and stuff like that to try and free the injectors off. And flipping heckle, man, they were a pain in the ass to get out. We got them all out eventually. I know Vivaro vans are some of the worst you can get. Well, it's like they're so close, the way they sit, the injectors sit down the bore, that they just corrode all the way up, and it's hell and all trouble to get them out again. But yeah, I think it's a case of time and patience. Even on my Vito, I had one injector that I needed to take out because it was leaking, and it wouldn't come out and it wouldn't budge at all. What I'd done was I just left the clamp off it eventually, so I couldn't put the clamp back. I'd moved it a bit and I couldn't fit the clamp back on to hold it down, so I just left the clamp off. A few weeks later, just like boom, the injector kind of like blew half out of the hole, and there was smoke bloody all over the place. I managed to limp it back to the garage, luckily. And then, but the injector, it come out then. It was brilliant. I just cleaned it all up, put a new seal on it, put it all back together. But yeah, it's time and patience if you got it to get these injectors out half the time. Just put some liquid down there, leave it to soak, and just keep doing it. Put in a bit. If you got one of them hammers, you can slide them to get them out. As long as you go steady a bit, don't break nothing for God's sake. Studio X. Hi, Studio X. You said last time the 1.5 TDCIs were prone to head gaskets. I've not been able to find anything about this. Can you point to where to look? Also, what car do you most regret selling? I don't think I've actually looked for blown head gaskets on the internet on them 1.5s, but we had it was either 2 or 3 1.5s up at our sales garage. They were cars that were bought in to be used as taxis, never got used. They end up getting sold, but they both had blown head gaskets. And I thought, flipping heck, is this a thing with them? Because the 2 litres, I've never had a blown head gasket, but both these 1.5s, they were both blown. They were definitely blown. The amount of pressure that was building up in the cooling system was terrible. But they both got sold off with no warranty, no nothing. So we never heard from them again. But I kind of and I put it down to the fact that they're not very good. And when I started looking on, because when I was actually going to do one of these head gaskets, I never got around to it. It got sold before I was able to do it. And when I searched for head gaskets for them, there was sort of like plenty of head gasket sets people were selling for these engines. So I kind of figured they're not the strongest for head gaskets. The 2 litres they can run without water basically quite well for a while. We've had so many of them that have run so low on water and they've never done head gasketing. But every time I've come across a 1.5, it's had a blown head gasket. Maybe I've just been unlucky. There is a driver that's got a 1.5 and he's using it as a taxi on these taxis, and he's had no trouble with it. So it's just something I've got into my head, because all I've seen is blown head gaskets of them. So don't take my word for gospel, but what I would say is I wouldn't get one anyway, because the simple fact is for the size of the car, they're underpowered anyway. That's the problem. I've drove one and it's like you just want there to be more go in it. That's why I say go for the 2 litre all day long. But hang on a minute. What was that last bit? What car do you most regret selling? I did love my Ford Scorpio. I'll go down that route another day. That was the fugly car. Lee Bruin. Hi, Lee. I've got a rumbling noise when going left at 40-ish on my Mark V. Any idea what could be? A rumbling noise when going left. Well, if you go right and there's no noise, and then you go left and there is a noise, it's a front wheel bearing. What you're best doing is, if you get the front wheels jacked up, put your hand on one of the coil springs and spin the wheel right and left. And if you can feel roughness on the spring, like a vibration through the spring, coil spring, when the wheel's spinning, then that's your wheel bearing that's knackered, because you shouldn't feel nothing on the spring when the wheel's spinning. So that's one way of like testing them, because sometimes these wheel bearings can be a bit elusive as to what side is actually gone. Sean Oliver. Hi, Sean. My Focus Mark III aircon is ice cold in seconds. Yeah, that's what I mean. Some cars are just like, boom, freezing cold. As the moment you switch that button on, they're bang, freezing. And other cars just take flipping ages to get cold. Brian, my daughter had a Civic. It was like a blast freezer. Mark G. Hi, Mark. Pedra Silva. Hi, Pedra. I have one question. My 2016 Mark V have a problem. On the driver's side, I can only get cold air, but on the passenger side, I can get both. That is something we haven't actually. I think we've got one car that's got the same problem you got, and we haven't fixed it yet. And I'm kind of figuring there's little motors. It's something that's got to be looked into, but there's little motors on each side of the heater to do your hot and cold distribution, because you've got like climate control. And I'm believing it's one of these motors that's playing up. I haven't got an answer on that yet, because I do know exactly what you mean. And I know we've got a car. I don't know which one it is yet, but I haven't seen it for a while. So the driver's not obviously bothered about it. One day when it comes in again, I might get a chance to have a look at it and try and work it out. But I don't have an answer at the minute. It's not a job that I've actually completed and got the solution to. In trade motor. Hiya, how are you doing? Alexander Smith. Hi, Alexander. I watch your videos a lot and love your experience on cars. I also like when you strip an engine down to find out what's wrong with it. Well, Thank you, Alexandra. I do like to take things apart when they've been destroyed. I do it for the video because it's like, no, if I didn't have a camera there, I wouldn't do it. I'd just sling it in the bin, give it to the scrap man. But because of the YouTube channel, it's kind of like, it can be interesting. People want to see what the destruction is. And because it's on film, it makes it more interesting, especially when you can actually record it and try and put it in a sequence of events to make it look kind of interesting. But yeah, that's the only reason I take them apart, is because of the camera and because of the YouTube channel. But thanks anyway. Ivan, hello. What is the reason behind the garage and taxi company sticking with the Mondeo for so long? What's the story? The owner, he has been a Ford. He's had Fords since he basically started. I can't remember. Actually, I have. In his sales garage, there's a photograph of, it's a Mark III Cortina. I think it's a 1972 or 73. I'll get the picture and I'll put it up on the community tab in this YouTube. He's got the picture of this Mark III Cortina that he had. And he had two of them. And they were the cars he basically started with. And he's always had Fords ever since then. He had Mark IIIs, Mark IVs, went on to the Sierras, all through the Sierras and Granadas, Mark III Granada range. And then went on to the Mondeos, because he got a deal with the Ford at T.C. Harrison here in Huntingdon and Peterborough. He had a good deal going with a salesman, so they give him quite a lot of discount. And believe me, at the time, if I go back to like the 1990s, when it was the Mark I Mondeo versus the Vectra B, we had a look at both. I remember he was looking at both cars, but he opted for the Mondeo for the simple fact that he'd been with Fords all his life anyway, so he tended to stick with them, and we weren't too keen on the Vectras. I know a lot of people liked them Vectra Bs at the time, but he liked the Fords, and that's what we stuck with, and he kept with the Mondeos ever since. So that's it, really. Money is probably over in the office. she'll only be in the office if she's getting paid. Although she does do a fair bit of overtime. Mark C. Litter, hello. Had a 605. The aircon on that blew your socks off. Yeah. Yeah. Johan, the Mark II and Mark III Volkswagen Golfs had freezing AC. Yep. Do the Americans drive of the wrong side of the road often? What, over here? Not anymore. They have done in the past, especially when they were pissed, because years ago you didn't have all the traffic lights and everything, and I've often seen cars go around the Huntingdon Ring Road on sort of like the wrong way as well, and the wrong side of the road. But it's either Americans or Chinese. The Americans would have to be drunk. The Chinese would just have to be lost. So, but no, I don't really see that anymore. There are a lot of Americans over here, because there's quite a lot of Oakenbury right opposite where we are, and no, they all seem to drive quite well actually these days. Millie BC, hello Millie, love your videos. Which one would you pick, Mark III to ST220 3-litre V6 or Mark III ST turbo diesel? I've always preferred petrols, to be honest with you. It's just the bloody price of the petrol these days. But I think I would prefer the petrol one, even though the ones, the diesel engines, the Duratorques they put in them cars, the 2 litres and that, they were pretty damn fast for a diesel. In fact, I'd never seen a diesel go so bloody fast until we saw some of them cars. They were flipping bloody. Oh, What was it? There was some other car they brought out, a diesel version. I think it was either a Focus or a Fiesta, and they were so quick. I thought, can diesels actually go that far? This is when diesels were still like considered to be quite slow. But no, I would definitely have the ST220 3-litre V6, the petrol one. I always preferred petrol cars. I never liked diesels. The only reason I do diesels now is because I've been stuck with it because all the taxis are diesels. So I've had to sort of like learn about it. But I do like petrols. I like the smell of the old mopeds. You know, the two-stroke. Abdul Bougami, best regards from France, Leon. Hello there. Hello over there in France. How are you doing? Lubomir Lukak. Hello from Slovakia. Well, hello. Blimey, I sort of certainly got people from all over the world. The Stubby. Hi from the Isle of Wight. Well, hello in the Isle of Wight. Aren't you living in a lucky place? That'd be a good holiday destination. Personal opinion about remapping the diesels. Not crazy power gains, but 25 to 40. Is it something you would go for or done? It's not something I've done, but as I was saying, I was speaking to Ben, who has the Whiteman Mondeo Vignale. He's got the 4Scan software where you can basically remap your ECU. It depends what power car you've got to start with. If it's like the low power one, you can the 4Scan software will allow you to upgrade your brake horsepower just using the software. So you could practically do it yourself. He has said, I did ask him, do you notice the difference? And he says, not really. You wouldn't really notice much. But he raced one of his friends and a number of times just to see. And he said it was definitely sort of like made a difference in the speed of the car, but it's not enough for you to actually physically notice that much of an improvement for such a small amount of brake horsepower. But say if you look into it more, with that 4Scan software, I think it's like you have to pay $100. You can get a free download of it, free trial, and it's like £100 for a year or something, or £100 for life or whatever it is. And then there's an awful lot you can do with that. You can do all sorts of functions with it. So yeah, if you wanted to do it, you can do it quite easily, but you probably wouldn't see much in the way of benefits. Hi Wayne, have you had much experience with DPF on the PSA engine? What engine variant is the most reliable? Well, the ones, I forget what variant they are, but they're 140 brake horsepower, 2-litre TDCIs. They, generally speaking, it's normally the nozzle, the vaporizer nozzle that blocks up. And you have to change that. And then they're as good as gold, really. So all the hoses, the 2 rubber hoses, there's not a heck of a lot goes wrong with them. I know they do play out from time to time, but if you can get a late one like from 2012 onwards, they're the best engines. The trouble is the DPFs are sort of like I know it's all emission related, but it's like they just strangle your engine anyway. You'd be much better off without the bloody DPF. But what can you do? It's all this emission related malarkey these days. So save the planet. Gasso Kostudic, hi Montenegro, hi over there. John Vermeulen, nice to listen to you without gunshots ringing in my area. Was like a war here in New Germany, South Africa. Oh, you're in South Africa. Flipping heck. I've just been watching. I don't know if we've watched her, Lauren Southern. I've just been watching her. She was interviewing a guy in South Africa. He has something to do with firearms. He's sort of like saying if you're living over there, then if you can get hold of a gun, then it's a good thing to have. But yeah, I've just seen it where it was something to do with one of these government members handing himself into the police, into prison or something, this corrupt official or whatever. And a lot of his followers, I don't know the proper story because I wasn't paying that much attention, but a lot of his followers came out and started protesting. And then in come a load of looters and everything. And it ended up in just a complete and utter absolute nightmare. Yeah, really seriously bad. If you know what's going on firsthand, but I mean, Lauren Southern done the farmlands video in South Africa. I do follow some of these things, but yeah. Well, it's nice you're okay because it sounds like a very, very dangerous situation over there at the minute. And of course, they're blaming the ANC. I don't know, sort of like, apparently they're totally corrupt, but I don't really know the politics of what goes on over there. But yeah, nice to hear you're okay though. Yeah. Well, thanks for that comment. I do sort of like follow what's going on in South Africa and well around the world. I do sort of like listen to various places where there's trouble going on.
Go hide my badge so your viewers don't see what's called.
Okay. Richard Kenyon. Hi, Richard. Glow plugs. How much to replace Mark II Galaxy 2-litre TDCI? 140 brake horsepower. Do you know what code it'd be on Code Reader? I don't know what code it would be. I would check them first to see if they're actually faulty. There should be a where your 4 glow plugs are. There'll be like a block connector, and there'll be 4 wires. You can pull the connector apart, and you can do an ohms check on each wire individually. One goes to each glow plug. So if it's open circuit, the glow plug's dead. You'll probably have to Google what kind of ohms you're supposed to be looking at. But they're not the nicest of things to change, if you know what I mean, because all like the manifold's in the way and there's quite a bit to take off. So it's quite an expensive job to do, and especially if there's nothing wrong with them. And it's very rare that I've had any problems with them glow plugs. So I would sort of like check they're actually do an ohms check on them first before you even think about changing them. Yam Dashcam, hi, yeah, how you doing? I'll keep my Mark III Galaxy. Lee Smith, hi Lee. Ben BB, hi Ben. Enjoying the live chat. Hats off for taking the time to do them. I ain't got much else better to do. If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be sitting watching channels on YouTube. But there's a lot of people on YouTube I follow, and it's just getting around to actually watching their videos. But thanks anyway. I've got a Mark III Mondeo TDCI. It's hard to start when the engine is warm, but starts fine from cold. Hard to start when the engine is warm. Not really sure. It would probably be worth doing an injector leak off test. Also, I would check the EGR valve isn't stuck open or getting stuck open a little bit. That can cause starting issues. It's going to be a case of working through a list of things. Plus, it might be worth plugging it into your scanner or something and see if there's any codes in the ECU, just to see. You could even have a fuel filter related problem there. So it could be a number of things. It's sort of like a lot of these cases. It's like just trying to take an educated guess at what it could be. Nomadic mechanic, any jobs going in the workshop? I'm looking for a fresh start. There could well be shortly. You could anyone can come down and have an interview. I think that they may well be looking for someone shortly, actually, and that is actually the truth. So it is a possibility. Oh, I've just lost where I am. Guys, I'm sort of like miles behind again. Retro, hi Retro, what's your thoughts on spring assisters? I used to have spring assisters on my Mark III Cortina. They were great, but I only used them to, I don't think they were assisters. They were big rubber things you fitted in the coils to raise your suspension up, to stiffen them up. I think they were supposed to stiffen them up, but I done them to raise them up. No, I wouldn't use them. I'd probably get the proper springs for it. Get some more strengthened springs. I think they're the kind of thing that'd be sort of like, I don't know. I wouldn't like to use them. Old school and Pebbles Travels. Hello. Good day. Big Al from Perth, Western Australia. Bloody hell. There was someone else from Australia who messaged me earlier. I forget his name. Woodpecker. It was Woodpecker. But hello over there in Australia. Glad to hear from you. Andy Peck, I don't have anything to ask, but I love watching you present. Kudos. Cheers. I'm actually camera shy, guys. Really, I'm the kind of person I stand in front of a camera and I'm like, I don't know what to say. And I'll tell you what I used to do as well. This is the only reason I made this. No, it's not the only reason, but when I first had to stand in front of a camera, you know the LCD screens off to the side. I'm always sort of like, so my eyes will be over there, and I wouldn't be looking straight ahead. I've kind of overcome that bit. But a lot of the reason I actually do these videos is because it's like a confidence thing. Like I couldn't look at a camera and say a sentence. You know, like if you've got someone in front of you, you can just have a conversation with someone and talk. But as soon as there's a flipping goddamn camera lens there, you can't get the words out and you keep messing your lines up. So it takes a lot of practice, and I'm still practicing. You want to try it sometime. It's amazing how a camera lens can actually put you off. It's like a phobia I'm trying to overcome. Anyway, thank you, Andy. I'm going to move on. Oi. Park Nest, hi everybody. JP, all right, thanks for the tip. Now that you said it, I remember that they were changed when I bought the car 2 years ago. How hard are the DPF lines to get out of them Mark IVs? They're not hard as long as you can get underneath the car. If you ain't got like a proper ramp, if you got like drive up ramps or something like that, if you can get underneath the car, I think there's a little bar you take off, and that's at the back of the subframe, and then you can get better access to them. They come off a DPF well easy. They're a little bit of a sod to get to up on the bulkhead, but you can unbolt the unit. They're easy enough. They're no big deal. The crazy life of Super Skort. Howdy, how are you? All is brilliant. Chris Wilkinson, hi Chris. What's your thoughts on the DS3? We have a few come in just for like oil changes, MOTs. They seem okay. There's obviously quite a lot of people like them, but Citroen's always been a little bit quirky, aren't they? They look okay. As cars go, they're not a bad looking car. So if you like them, sort of like, I sort of like just do your research on them. I don't know much about them apart from the fact that they we have quite a few come in for general servicing. We don't have any trouble with them. Anything else? I don't really know if there's anything to watch for because I don't really have much to do with them. The ones I see are all pretty newish, so they just have a general service and they're out the door again. I would just go on Google and see if you can find any information you can. If you like the car that much and you're convinced about it, as long as it's got sort of like a decent service history and you sort of like, and it looks nice and everything checks out okay, go for it. I mean, I know we all buy a lemon once in a while, but I mean, cars are a problem. You can buy a car. It's like when I bought my Scorpio, I mean, I paid like over $8,000 for my Scorpio, and this was 1996 P-Reg it was, and it was lovely. For the first 2 months, it drove perfect. Then all of a sudden, the overdrive light started flashing. It had automatic gearbox issues, but it didn't. It took 2 months for that issue to show up, and I had nothing but automatic gearbox problems after that. It cost me an absolute fortune. But like I say, if you like the car, go for it. Cars Exposed. Hi, how are you doing? Tom Curtis. Hi, Tom. It would be interesting to hear a bit of background about you and your business, even some business advice. It's not my business. It's I only work there at Steve's Taxis. But I've kind of like got a little bit of free reign to do a few things, like make videos. so yeah, I mean, one day I'll probably tell the story of the actual Steve's Taxis, because when it comes to an end, I'll do a full feature length on it. I'll go over the whole thing and I'll make a proper story of it, because I think it's like a lot of things. If you want to keep the memories, you've got to document things. I mean, and I know years ago, most of us, like, we never had cameras or anything like that, but now we've got these things that we can create these memories and put them on YouTube for everyone else to hear and see. It's great because it's you remember like your TV set, you had like 3 or 4 channels years ago. Now you've got millions of channels. Basically, you can go anywhere you like and watch content from all over the world, and it's like there is so much out there that is so interesting. If you want to hear it, it's just having the time to find it and listen to it. And I'm sure there's something for everybody out there. You know, what I call these relationship stories and all kinds of stuff on the internet in there. You'll never get bored. In trade mode, high Cars Exposed. JB Bumpkin, Dyer Woodhams, that's it. I remember that name because Woodham is the name of the boss who owns the Steve's Taxis here. Railway Scrapyard in Barry Island. Yeah, bingo. Yeah, that was a long old time ago. I'll tell you something though, because I had a Butlins at Barry Island. I'm going back some. I'm really going back a long time. They had a Butlins at Barry Island, and then you could see from Barry Island, you could see over to the Butlins at Minehead. You could see the lights. But I remember they used to every morning, because I was in that Butlins when I was a kid, and they brought a tractor out every morning. They churned all the sand up on that in that cove, and it was a really like hot week we had there, and it was like, what a fantastic place it was back then. I think I don't know what it's like now, but I heard it went downhill a little bit. But and I don't know if they've still got a Butlins there at all. But the time I spent there, I absolutely loved it. Beautiful place it was. Student, it was called Barry's Scrapyard, and the Dyewoodham. Yep. Thank you. Colin Paton, if the car is regeneration, does it do your DPF any damage if you switch? If the car is regeneration, does it do your DPF any damage if you switch? I'm not sure what you mean by switch. If they get blocked to a certain extent, you need to do a forced regen. Doesn't do them any harm. Ali Mac Mechanical, how are you doing? Mr. Ritchie, I spoke to you earlier about my 2-litre ST TDCI. If I get it stage 1 remapped by someone decent, 185 to 230 brake horsepower, will the DW10 PSA lump take it? 35k. I have no idea. I should think it probably will, because they're a strong old engine. I think they will. But it depends how much you're willing to thrash it, though. If you want to tune it, but there again, when you start tuning, it's depends how much you want to spend on it, because it's like the sky's the limit, really, isn't it? There's so many things you can do. But if you want that extra little bit of power, I'm not actually sure how much it's actually going to give you. That's the thing. I haven't actually had one that's been mapped so I can get in it and drive it and actually tell you, because I just don't know. But if you want to do it, then it's one of them things you're not going to know until you do it. So you may as well just do it and see what happens. And at the end of the day, what is it? A bit of money. You'll soon know. You'll soon know when you drive it how much more it's. If you can actually feel the extra power in it. Park Nest. Max Mingozi. Hi Max, why do you always tend to use genuine Ford parts instead of quality aftermarket parts? Also, I found that a lot of parts on the Mark IV are much cheaper from Peugeot. Well, the problem is because all the cars that we have as taxis were bought brand spanking new, and Ford have impressed stock in our garage. They supply all the parts for us, supposedly at a competitive price. So it's not like I'm picking up the phone every day and saying I need an oil filter, because we have them all put in stock. We have a salesman come round from Ford, parts salesman, and he has a checklist, and he supplies and stocks our stores out of all the Ford parts. A lot of it is the fact that because the cars are all bought brand new, we want to use genuine parts on them, genuine filters, genuine brakes, genuine clutches, and everything that comes from Ford. So we know it's good stuff. That's why. But when the cars get to a certain point, like probably after 3 years old, then we tend to sort of like put anything on them. When the mileage gets high and it doesn't really matter that much, and maybe the cars are going to get sold off, we will sort of like be reluctant to put the more expensive stuff on them. But for the first few years, we religiously keep them up with proper Ford timing belts, and just so we know if anything was to go wrong, we can say we've actually put the genuine Ford parts on them. I'm just seeing if I'm going to try and get through some of these comments, but I don't think I'm going to make it. My Peugeot 505. Blimey. Was that an all aluminium engine? Oh, I think I said this last night. My first car was a 1967 Vauxhall Viva HB. Burke, thank you very much for answering. Best regards from bloody Sweden. Hello there in Sweden. Ali Mac Mechanic. I'm just in Park Nest, was working on the Audi bus. What do you say on to the most yank YouTube channels of saying a 3K oil change is required, 5K max? Heard some strange stories. I guess the only people that would do that are like people who are completely over the top with their car. No, I mean I would say 6,000 miles or maybe once a year would be like the lowest amount. The trouble is I can't count in them kind of low numbers because all I see is cars that do like 10,000 miles every 6 weeks. So it's like no, I'd never change all that kind of mileage unless you're sort of like, I know that if you get a car that's doing really stupid, like maybe it'll do 1 mile a day and the engine's never even getting warm, that's not doing it any good at all. But nah, I think that's just stupid. 3,000 miles and bloody changing your oil. It just sounds ridiculous to me. If your car is regenerating and you switch it off halfway through, will it damage the DPF? Probably not. I'll tell you something. We've not. The only situation we've ever had, which was quite funny actually. This is a good one. I can't even remember what car. I think it was a Vauxhall of some kind, an Astra or something. The DPF, it needed a regeneration, and we got it regenerating, and we had our scanner connected up, and it took the revs up to about 3,000 RPM for so many minutes, and it was just sitting there with the revs up, computer controlled by the scanner and all that, and then the revs died down to tick over, and then all of a sudden the revs just went up again, but they didn't stop. They just it literally went flat out by itself, and a mate at the time, he jumped in the car, switched the ignition off, but that was no good because it was just running by itself at that time. He shoved it into gear and put his foot on the brake and eventually got the engine to stall. And when you turn the key after that, I mean, this was like doing the regeneration at the time, and obviously they had to cut it short. Turned the key and the engine was locked. So we pushed the car in a corner and we left it there all weekend. And a mate come down Monday to take the car away because he's going to take it up our sales garage and change the engine. And I just said jokingly to him, why don't you just start it up with the key and drive it off, you know? And he tried it. It did. It just started up. It did, literally started up with the key and he drove the car off. I couldn't believe it. The engine was literally seized where it had got that bloody hot. And it was actually fine after that. It never come back. So no, I think you can cut one off halfway through. It's not a good thing to do though. But I've not heard of it destroying a DPF by having to cut one off. The problem is if you cut a regen off halfway through, all you're doing is not doing the regen properly. That's all that's really going to be the end result of it all. What's it? Dorov Tomka. Hi, how are you doing? Got a Mark V, really bad rattling sound coming out of the rear end of the car. Got it checked in a couple garages. They don't know what it is. One even said it's the boot. Really bad rattling sound. Hang on. So the shorts keep sticking to me. It's warm. I would say, more than anything, if it's, you see there's a few noises that come from the back of them. If it's creaking is one thing, but if you've got like a rattling knocking noise, I would say it is the top shock absorber mount at the back on one of the sides. if you're able to unbolt the two 18 mils that hold the shock absorber on, you'd have to put a jack under the bottom arm to keep it from dropping down. But if you can unbolt them two 18 mils of the wheel off, you can get hold of that mount in your hand, and if you can wriggle it about, it could well be worn out, and you'll feel it. You'll feel the play in it, and you'll have to change that top mount. But the actual nut that holds the top mount on, where the threads are, they can rust and rot away, and they can be really hard to get off. So you might end up getting a new shock absorber as well if you're not careful. But yeah, they do get knocked out, and they cause quite a noise. Billy Bell, hi Billy. Evening all. EGRs and DPFs, do you have issues? What's the worst out of your pool of vehicles? Any tips to avoid? Well, one of the worst EGRs is what's on the Mark V Mondeos. It's the simple fact they're forever cracking and leaking coolant. As far as the EGRs go on the Mark IV Mondeo, especially the 2-litre TDCIs, they've been pretty minimal trouble. Well, on the later ones, 2012 onwards, they've been no trouble really. I think I've had just one that ever played up, so they're really good. On the 2011, like the earlier type 2-litre TDCIs, where they're at the back of the engine, they occasionally play up, but not that often. You go back even further, you got Mark III Mondeos. They were a much simpler design. The EGRs, they basically had like a valve inside them with a spring. Sometimes the spring could get stuck, especially on transit Mark VIs. They can get gunked up, and they hold the valve open, and the bloody van won't start or something like that. And you just sort of like bung a load of freeing oil in there, and you can free them off with a screwdriver, and then they're good to go again. But no, the Mark V Mondeo is 2-litre. Is definitely the worst DPF. They're forever breaking. They've got that plastic housing that the water runs through, and they leak. Studio X, trailing ours. John Gate 1, do you not get fed up always working on Mondeos? It is sometimes nice to do something different. I mean, yeah, they can get really boring, especially the same old crap all the time. So sometimes when something comes in, I don't know, like the job tomorrow is a front shock absorber on a Mercedes. It's like it's not great, but it's something different. So I might actually make a video on this one. It's just a short one, because it's a little bit interesting because of the way the shock absorbers are. Whether they get sucked in, they're not the average shock absorber. But yeah, the Mondeos do get a bit boring after a while. Another MPV or maybe SUV. It has to be diesel for fuel economy. Rust Andy, just watch the vid on pollen filter Mark V Mondeo. Do you have to put car in service mode, or can I just get stuck in and strip the glove? Nah, just take the glove box out. Just unbolt it all, take it apart, pull the pollen filter out, put a new one in, and put it back together. No, you haven't got to touch nothing electrical. Even if there's any plug connectors back there, you can just pull them off and connect them back in. I will stop off at the garage if I'm passing my truck. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, pop in sometime. Be great to see you. Tez Ali, love your videos. My Peugeot 207 1.6 petrol sport, it is showing engine temperature too high, anti-pollution faulty. The fan is running continuously after turning the engine off. Also, oil leak. Yeah, you probably need to get that looked at. Sounds a bit suspect, the fan running all the time. I'll definitely check your coolant level. Make sure your head gasket's not gone, not gone, or you will have big problems. Goal 5, I have Mark 5 Mondeo with an engine code P0069, which is manifold absolute pressure, barometric pressure correlation. Any idea what it is? Well, you have lots. I guess the first thing you would be looking at would be your. It's called a MAP sensor, manifold absolute pressure sensor. They're usually on the front of the manifold somewhere by the air intake. Depends what engine they are though. I think on the Mark 5, that they are by the air intake. There's a little sensor there, and they can get gummed up with carbon. And if they get gummed up, they can't read the pressure in the manifold. So it'd be worth pulling the sensor out and checking it's clear. I think the hole it goes into is pretty. But some of these Mark 5s, I take the throttle housing bit off where the air goes in. There's a turbo hose on the front, and where the air goes into the inlet manifold bit, there's they can get so gunked up with crap and carbon, you have to clean them all out. So there's a high chance that sensor is actually blocked. So I'll take it out first. I think there's a few sensors up there. You have to locate the exact one, but it's like a little sensor that goes through the intake unit. I can't exactly think what one it is because there's two set up there. But if you know what I mean, where there's a big turbo hose comes up from the bottom, behind the radiator, and goes onto this little throttle housing. And there's a couple sensors on top of it. It's one of them two. You can take it off from the top anyway. Just have a look at it. Make sure it's not covered in bloody carbon. Danny Turner, new to channel. Hi, Danny. What do you think of a blanking plate for an EGR valve having so much trouble with it so blanked off? With it so blanked it off. It's a 58 plate, 1.6 petrol Vauxhall Zafira. If it is possible to blank, you probably can do that one. If you can blank it off, you're probably going to save yourself a heck of a lot of trouble. I mean, it's only emission related. They're only for emissions. I mean, all they really do is put a small amount of exhaust fumes that have been burnt in the engine back through the engine again to be burnt again, just to make it more economical and reduce the emissions. But for the small amount these EGR valves do, and if it's causing you trouble, if it's to sort of like get rid of your problems, if you can blank it off, then just make up a plate. If it's bolted straight onto the head, and you can make up a little light metal plate and put it between the EGR valve and the cylinder head and just bolt it on so it's blanked off, that should be it. That should do it. Then you'll have no more EGR problems. Sean Oliver, low ash oil for any car. Yep, that's right. That's another thing. When you start looking into oil technology, I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of science that goes into oil manufacture. But the low ash oil is why they have so many of these really sort of like special oils for these engines. Otherwise they'd soot up if they had the crap oil in them. Sean MC, good evening. How are you? David Booley. Hi, David. 2015 Mark V Mondeo titanium estate with a power tailgate. It goes up in 3 stages, and when fully up, it won't close using the button or key fob. We don't have any that have got that fancy motors on them. All our tailgates are manual, so you would probably have to get it plugged in to a diagnostic tool, and there may well be a fault code stored somewhere for what operates it. But no, it's not something I've come across, so I can't really give any ideas on that at the minute. But I'd probably guess best to get someone to look at that. For all you know, even at a Ford garage, it might be a common problem. Wayne, what would you say is the hardest job you ever did? I can't think of that just yet. I had this question a few weeks back. There's been a number of difficult jobs that I think, what the hell, I'm never going to get through this. And I think actually, what I thought was going to be the hardest job wasn't. It was Iveco bus, a torsion bar where it runs from the top suspension arm to the body underneath where you can adjust it. And I'd heard horror because the bushes in the top arm where the torsion bar runs through were worn out. It failed its MOT, and I had to change these bushes in the top arm, and I had to remove a torsion bar. But all I kept hearing was the torsion bar seize in the top arm, and you can't get them out without cutting them out. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I don't know what I'm going to do here. And I thought maybe I should take the whole front suspension off and everything, and then try and work it on the bench or something on the ground, out away from the bus. But I thought I'll just try and take the torsion bar off to start with. And I literally unbolted the torsion bar from the top arm, give it a tap with a hammer, and it just moved. I couldn't believe it. I was the luckiest person in the world that day, and I just knocked the torsion bar out and changed the bushes. It was a job that I was absolutely sort of like, it would have sent me over the edge, but it turned out to be piss easy in the end. Park Nest, my mate. Paul Murphy, 2011 S-Max Titanium Export, auto, intermittent power issues, struggling to get to 90. Yeah, you'd have to have it plugged into the diagnostic tool and see if there's any codes first. There could be hell and all kind of things wrong with it. You'd need someone to actually have a look at it. Jay Scott, my 4K 0.5 has slight wobble on the steering on the motorway and then wobbles when braking from speed. Had new alloys, new hubs, new tyres, four-wheel alignment and counterbalancing. No, it's one of them things. The trouble is, you say he's had all this, that, and the other put on it, but it's like I would take it from like scratch and drive it first, and then come to my own assessment of it. And I know another thing, especially if it's brake related, we've got like a MOT rolling road to test the brakes. That works brilliantly for checking brake imbalance on warped discs. We can actually pinpoint exactly what disc is warped, and then we know exactly what wheel we're looking at. So it's probably something you'd really have to get someone who knows about this sort of thing would have to be looking at it. I mean, I know a bit myself, but it's like, it depends where you live in the country. What's your opinion on the 2.3 litre EcoBoost Focus STs? Not seen any yet. Once again, we only really have the Mondeo 2 litre diesel taxis. That's the problem. I don't get to see all these different cars. I'm kind of like limited to a very select few, but I've not seen any of them 2.3 eco boosts. And we've got some, I think they're 2 litres in our transits, but we've not had enough problems with them at the minute to actually kind of give like a decent explanation of are they any good or not. I know if they've got wet belts in them, then this 2.3 litre, I don't know what it's driven by. If it's driven by bloody wet cam belts, then I'd avoid it, because I think they're a load of rubbish. If it's a normal cam belt or a chain, then fine, but Ford seem to be bringing back these wet belt ideas, and it's going to be the destruction of many engines. And plus, when they need changing, they're going to cost an absolute fortune. Robert Casement. Hi, Robert. Good evening to you as well. Christopher Richardson. Hi, Chris. I love the channel, entertaining. Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping by. Does Miss Monica watch your videos? She probably doesn't. I'll be honest with you. I don't even watch them myself. There have been a few occasions I have to watch my own video because I've forgotten how to do something. But it's like this. When we put a video together, we will watch it like because you're putting it together. You're kind of seeing it all the time. Well, I am, and it gets a bit boring because you have to go over it a few times to make sure most of the stuff in it's right, and you sort of like edited it kind of like fine enough. We haven't got any silly mistakes in it. But once it's actually gone onto YouTube, you kind of forget about it. It's just another video you put out. I think Monica will probably watch it probably once because she'll watch her part in it, and she'll either send me like a laughing emoji or something like that if she likes it or not. So that's about it. We'll probably watch them once and then move on. But no, I don't sit here and watch them at all, really, and she probably doesn't either. Timestamp. What is the time? 9:36. Roy Herbert. Hi, Roy. I was watching your videos on the Mondeo, and you mentioned a cracked rear tail light you repaired, but I'm unable to locate the video. Can you point me in the direction? If it's a recent one, I mentioned a tail light that was cracked. That was on a Mark IV. Was it? Or was it a Mark V? It was one of the last 2 videos. It was either the Mark V Mondeo. What faults are there on a Mark V Mondeo, or what to look? Is the Mark IV Mondeo a good one or not? I've put 2 videos out in the last 2 weeks. It's one of them 2, but I don't think I've repaired a cracked rear light. I mentioned the cracked rear light. Yeah, it'll be one of the videos that come out. The last 2 I put out, one of them 2. I know what you mean. There was one with a crack in it, and I mentioned it, but I can't remember myself. Look back on the last 2 videos that I put out. If you go to my channel, then you can see the latest ones that have been out. There's one that's been out for 2 days, 3 days, and there's one been out for a week or so. It's one of them 2. Payot, I can't say your name. Well, hello. Ford Mondeo Mark V 2-litre TDCi. Is there any difference in replacing the timing belt between the manual gearbox and the automatic gearbox? We don't have any autos, but but I wouldn't have thought so, because if you can imagine the actual on the manual, you've got a pin you put through the engine block, and it goes into a flywheel. So I should imagine that on the auto, the hole in the engine block will still be in the same place. It's still going to be the same engine. It's not, all it's going to be different is the auto box. So I should think there will still be something for it to dog into, some kind of setup for it to dog into. So I should think it's still the same. I've not done an auto though. I can't remember doing one, but I'm pretty much sure it will still be the same place and the same pin or 6mm drill bit you can use to pin the crankshaft up. Mel Ray, where's Monica? I'll try and get her on next week if I can. I'll try and get her to put an appearance in next week. So she doesn't live here. That's the thing. She lives like 10 miles away. So I'll probably have to bribe her with a caramel macchiato to get her here. But I'll do my best. I'll try and get her on for like 20, 30 minutes next week. See how we do. Christopher, how do you persuade Miss Monica to be in the videos and wear the sexy outfits? Well, all the clothes she wears are all her own stuff, and I don't have to persuade her. She's quite happy to do it. She's good for she's quite happy for a laugh. So no, I don't have to persuade her at all. I think she just enjoys doing it. It's kind of like it breaks up the monotony of everyday life doing the same thing at work. It just, because we have a good laugh doing it as well. It's funny. We're laughing and joking sort of thing. So it's all a bit of fun, really. That's all it comes down to. So, and she likes to have a good laugh as well. So one day I'll go, maybe when I get her here, I'll explain how she got involved in the videos in the first place. So, but I'll actually save that story for when she's here, so she can actually have her own say, so she can tell me better if I'm wrong. Bolt thrower, have you had your chance? No, she's just my friend. When you get in steamed. Oh, flipping heck. 30 minutes behind questions. My God. Russ, what's your take on eBay spare parts? I had an expansion tank from Mark III split open straight out of the box and emptied the coolant completely. The trouble with eBay, you're never sure what you're going to get. That's the problem. If it's for a cooling system, I'll just get a genuine one. Be honest with you, because you want something that's going to work. And a lot of parts on eBay are kind of like cheap, and especially if they're used parts, you just never know how good they are, or even how good the seller is. I'm just trying to skip through some of these comments so I can get or I could go right to the very end and sort of like work my way backwards. Yeah. This is the trouble. I tend to sort of like yabber on so many of these comments, and there's more and more and more building up all the time. I'm not really getting anyway. I'll start here. Simon King, goodbye, mate. Goodbye, Simon. Have a good evening. Gary Beck, why would my Ford PSA 2012 sound slightly noisier first in the morning, but when warm, it's a lot quieter? Because diesels are generally noisy anyway, I'd say. They don't like the cold. Diesel engines like to be warm. And any diesel engine, if it starts up first thing in the morning, it's going to be a cold engine. It's going to be a bit noisier than a warm engine, assuming everything's working fine on it. But you see, I remember the days when diesel engines were noisy. They were noisy, horrible, rattly, smoky things. And these days, they are like super efficient, and a lot of them are quite quiet as well. I'd also make sure it's got the top cover on the engine, because a lot of these, they have their like bloody plastic cover with a bit of foam lagging to dampen down the sound. But without actually hearing your noise, I can't really tell. Do you think Mark III will ever be a classic? Oh, they are a classic. But that 20 year thing used to be a classic after 20 years. No one seems to pay any attention to that anymore. Ryan Aspinall, hi mate, how are you? Flying Elk, somehow all four of my Mark IV 2.2 plugs simultaneously took a dump. Plugs, I'm taking that. That's are you saying glow plugs? Fortunately, they're round the front of the engine, so much easier to fix. Why weren't they all like that? Well, they probably put them at the back of the engine just to piss everybody off, then decided to put them around the front. Mind you, there's still a bit of a job to get to them at the front. There's still a few things, well, a lot easier than what they were. I've done them ones at the back of the engine, and they're all right, sod. Robert Casement, Hartlepool. Well, hello there in Hartlepool. Plum 007, how are you doing? Do one. I've got a Ford Transit Mark 7. In cold weather, the engine sounds chattery. Until warm, sounds okay in summer months. I had the engine checked. Mechanical said nothing wrong. Yeah, it might just be the fact that diesels don't like the cold that much. As long as it's got the right oil changes and all that, there's not a lot you can do. If it's running fine, don't worry about it too much. Most diesels, especially in very cold weather, they can be a bit rattly, knocky when they're first cold. You remember, if you take like BMWs, which are sort of like, you get to the point these days where a diesel engine just start it up, and it should sound the same all the time. But the Fords, I don't think they're perfect, and that they can still rattle and knock a bit. And it might even be an injector problem when they're cold. But it's sort of like if it's running fine when it's warmed up a bit, you don't really notice anything majorly wrong. I won't worry too much. Believe me, if there's a major problem with these diesels, injector-wise or anything like that, you'd soon know about it, because it only takes a little bit, one injector to go faulty or something, and you'll soon notice a problem. Mark Nusita, Ford Galaxy, are they okay? I should think Galaxies are pretty okay. Yeah, if they're 2015 onwards, they're the same Most of them have got the 2-litre diesels. They're pretty reliable. Nice cars, especially if you've got like kids and all that. You need the extra room. Butlins Barry Island closed 7th of November 1996. Blimey. Eddie Ryan, hi Eddie. Finn Hogan, hi Finn, how are you doing over there in Dublin? Blimey. Renault UM, hi UM, Renault Megane DCI, hunting on idle, fuel filter, injectors, EGR, service done, being told high pressure, fuel pump. What do you think? Hunting on idle. If that's a list of all the things that have been changed, I would say plug it into your diagnostic tool first. Check for ECU codes. Check all your vacuum pipes if it's got anything like air leaks anywhere. That would give it a hunting on idle problem, especially air leaks. Breather hose. I'd check all the obvious first rather than replacing stuff. But it's once again, you need to get somebody who kind of knows what they're looking for. Mr. Super 144, thank you. Views on Euro 6 Transit Custom. If that's after, depends what year it is. If it's the EcoBoost engine with the wet belts in it, then unless you're prepared for a big bill at 140,000 miles to have their belts changed, then the trouble is they're a nice van. But Ford have decided to put their own engine in with these wet belt designs in a lot of them, and they're causing a lot of the engines to get blown up because the belts are breaking prematurely. That's their main downfall. Apart from that, the nice van. Mr. Rich, by the way, I mentioned last week the next time I go on recovery to Royston, I'll make sure Bob in and meet you. Be in a big truck, but I'll manage. Be great to see. Yeah, drop in. That'd be fantastic. Just park your truck outside. We'll be fine. Williams Sonics, hi. Sold my low mileage Mondeo 4.5 missing when cold. Like you, I thought it was injectors, but I stopped using supermarket fuel and switched to BP Premium, and it went away. The problem is there. A lot of us, including me, will always have the mentality that we're only going to put cheap supermarket fuel in it anyway, and it's like I know that if you put the better fuel in it, like you say there, you're going to get better fuel consumption, better performance. In fact, you're going to get better everything. But it's getting people out of the mentality that cheap supermarket fuel isn't doing the best for your engine. And a lot of people would say, well, I'm just going to get the cheap fuel anyway. But if that's a good result there, that's something that you could spend hours looking for a problem and not find it. and end up it's just the fuel all along. So, but no, that was a great find. That's a good one. But like I say, if you want to convince other people to who've got similar problems, they'll probably just stick with supermarket fuel. What's that? Nutcase 1 UK is my 61 Reg Mondeo Mark IV meant to be so boaty and bouncy when cornering? Well, no, I should think it's probably got worn out shock absorbers, if anything. That probably the fronts do wear out. But once again, you'd probably have to have it looked at. It's out unless the rear trailing arm bushes are gone as well. You'd have to have someone look at it. I mean, shock absorbers do get worn out, and then they do get a bit bouncy. What is this? Bobcat. Hi, Bob. I'm driving a Mark V Mondeo 1.5. Did you ever repair such a car? 2 years ago, I bought mine with 1 year dealer guarantee, and they nearly went broke because of the technical troubles. We've had a few, but I've not really done much to them. Both the 1.5s that I've seen that we had, they were sold off before we actually got to do anything to them, really. So no, not really up on the 1.5s. I couldn't really tell you what they're like. I mean, the rest of the car is basically a Mark V Mondeo. They're all the same, but as far as the engine goes, I'm not really sort of like an expert on them. I don't think I ever will be now. Mark Nusita, love the above comment about the supermarket fuel I don't use. What is your view on supermarket fuel? Well, I mean, I just use I use supermarket fuel because my old crate of a van runs perfectly fine on it. But I don't know if you ever remember when you go back some years, flipping it, and this is going back when unleaded first came out, and you still had 4-star petrol, and people were putting unleaded into their Cortina Mark 4s and 5s. I think, no, it must have been Cortina. No, let me say Mark 1 Ford Sierra petrol engines. They're putting unleaded in Ford Sierra engines, the 1.6 and 2 litres and that. And they were gutless. They were absolutely gutless. And they were saying, well, what's wrong with my engine? And it was the fuel all along. Because if they put the unleaded was cheaper, they were buying the unleaded because it was cheaper. If they'd just stuck 4-star back in it, which was dearer, it would have run okay. But they would get a mechanic out to check the cam belt timing, the valve timing, the this, that, and the other. And all along, it was just the fuel, because it never had the lead in it. The engine couldn't run on it properly. So I guess a lot these supermarkets, they've got the cheap fuel, and it's obviously cheap for a reason. It's not as good as like the BP fuel, which is a lot more expensive. And I actually had somebody from the actual DVSA I was speaking to, and he was saying he will only use the top quality BP fuel. And he says if you use it, you pay more for it, but you get better fuel consumption and better performance. But I keep saying, a lot of people, if they're not got no problems with their car running on the cheap fuel, they'll just keep using the cheap fuel, just like me. Anyway, Steve O2, bit of a strange one. Are you familiar with towing laws without a trailer license? Could you explain it? I don't know what year it all is, but someone like me, when I pass my driving test, I can tow a trailer anyway. But a certain year, I don't know what it is, you have to take a separate test to be able to tow a trailer. They made that a requirement. So I don't know what year it is. You'd have to look it up, Google it. What year do I need to pass my driving test to tow a trailer? And my sister done it. She actually went on a course where she had to use a trailer, and she got a trailer license. Yeah, bit of a pain, really. The shock on a Merc, do you change both sides? No, it's just going to do the one side. We're not changing the shock, we're changing the spring. It's got a broken coil spring. But what I'm saying is when you take the spring off the shock, off the front shock, the actual rod in the middle of the shock, it gets sucked inside the shock. It gets pulled inside. So in order to put the new spring on, you've got to pull the rod out and hold it out. So that's what we're going to do. I believe there's a special tool they use to hold the shocker. We're going to use a pair of mole grips. So, so we're going to see how it goes tomorrow. I've done that one. Tomaz Bogus, hi, how are you doing? Where are you? Jersey. Blimey. Hello in Jersey. Tile my house. Mark 5 Mondeo, 4 dynamic LED. How long living? Well, we don't have any, but I can tell you for now they'll last a lot longer than the H7 halogen bulbs in the basic models. That they should last for a flipping long time, considering what they cost. I mean, like everything else, LEDs can pack up, but these factory fitted ones, they should last years. Because if you had to buy a new headlight, I'm pretty sure they're like a sealed unit. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they are. But no, they should last years and years. But I can't clarify that because we don't have any. Right, the 10 o'clock. How long have I been going on this? 2 hours. I'll do a few more. It's like flipping heck. I'm gonna have to start doing some dances and do a bit of exercises. Have you changed the e-brake shoes on your Vito van? Oh, hello there from South Africa. How are you doing? I've not changed them, but I have taken them off because occasionally I'll take the rear discs off and I'll clean the shoes up. And also the little pins that hold the shoes to the back plate, they snapped. And of course the shoes sort of like tipped forward and started scraping on the inside of the disc, making a noise. I've not changed them. They seem to last ever such a long time. They look absolutely easy to change. There's only sort of like 2 pins. Once you take the pins out, then you can take them off. So they look straightforward. No problem. No dramas. B230 FT. Hello. My sister's Mark IV Mondeo seems to believe it is slipping when pulling off or backing up from a complete stop. ESP ABS light illuminated. What would you first suspect? Don't own a code reader. Well, if the ESP and ABS light are illuminated, you'd need to sort that out first. I'm not sure. It depends what model it is. I mean, has it got active hill start and all that sort of technology on it? because they would that would when you're on a hill that will hold the car before you pull off, so you don't fall backwards, don't slip backwards. But you'd have to get the ABS looked into first, because the ABS can cause all kinds of problems. So you're going to have to get someone with a code reader to find out what your ABS problem is. But when you say slipping, what do you mean? Do you mean it's like the brakes are slipping, or do you mean the clutch is slipping? So if it's the clutch, just put it in top gear and going up a hill, put your foot down. If the revs start to go like like that, then you'll soon know that if that's slipping. Rusty Wreck, how do you rate Mark III Mondeo 1.8 Duratec? They're okay. They're okay if they're looked after. They're a pretty nice engine. They're not quick or nothing. The 2 litres are the quicker ones. I did run through this in my last video. I mean, they do tend to burn oil when they get a bit high mileage. They'll leak oil from the rocker cover gasket. There isn't a hell of a lot goes wrong with them. Not a bad engine at all. They're a Mazda engine. They're not bad. They're pretty well built. I've gone through that comment. Sky Laris, I had a wet belt break on me. Oh, that's bad news. Them wet belts are just absolute horrible idea. Mark Murphy, good evening to you as well. Dennis Cronin, hi Dennis. How long have you worked at the garage? At that particular garage, I've been there since 1998 in that garage, and that was when it was built. I've been there forever. I'm older than the bloody furniture in that place. Fingelsham, great to find a dedicated Mondeo expert. Luckily, my old Mondi 2-litre petrol estate fine and 16 years sold ex-Avis for 1 year. I really love it. Cool. Axel Pluto, Kamusta, how are you? Oh, you speak a bit of Tagalog. Any idea about an old Mondeo alternator replaced 2 times, waited on the 3rd? Any idea about an old Mondeo alternator replaced 2 times, waiting on the 3rd one, and I gone to be the first one to look at it? I don't know. I don't really know what you're saying here. If you're buying cheap alternators, then a lot of them are rubbish. Even these cheap aftermarket ones. There's a certain make we get roller something, and they're in yellow, orangey boxes, and they're absolute rubbish. You don't even know they're going to work straight out of the box. It's kind of like I go for the brand Delco Remy when I buy something, starter motors, alternators, if I can get them. I go for a good, decent name, and they're generally more expensive. But the cheap brands are slung together with very inferior parts and don't last very long. Skull 5, brilliant, thank you. I'll have a look tomorrow. Cool. Oh, I've just lost where I was. You called a Q, or you called or Q? I don't know. Why have I got this same comment about 100 bloody times? Take it to a garage. Get a mechanic to look at it. Maybe someone stole your shock absorbers. That's why it's bouncing all over the road. Maybe it's got no springs left on it. Why are you comment for 4 hours? Because that's what it is here. It's people asking questions and me trying to give them a few answers. Unless you want to hear about something else, we could change this channel to a relationship channel. Keep up the. I'm going to call time on this in a minute because it's getting on. I'm never going to get through this lot, but wouldn't like a Mark V Mondeo or Galaxy in the future, having listened to your advice. Mondeo Mark V have a lot of issues. If I avoid 1.5, well, the problem is everything I point. I mean, I don't think it would really matter. Well, some cars there's obviously going to be less, but if I was working on, say, I was working on Audis or something like that, I would probably come out with a list of problems with them as well. I don't think it'd matter what car it was. They've all got their issues. Because I work on this specific car, and I obviously record it on YouTube. It's like whatever faults I come out with, I'll highlight it. But for a lot of people who have these cars, I've said before, if you're under 100,000 miles, generally speaking, you're not going to come across really any problems. And this is the thing. A lot of these issues are on the more high mileage cars. So it's kind of like I'm just like highlighting what possibly will or probably will go wrong at certain points in time. But if you're one of these people that buy a car with low mileage on it and you're never going to get above 100,000 miles, you're probably never going to experience any of this and you'll have a trouble-free car. So I'm not saying the Mark V is not a bad car. It's a nice car. But once you start to get to certain mileage points, there will be certain things that will be going wrong on it. So it's just a case of like you kind of, by watching these videos, you'll know pretty much what's coming.
Are you still doing the live stream?
Yep, I'm going to have to switch off again in a minute, guys, because I've had enough tonight. Well, I'll do another one next Wednesday. Where we got Flying Elk. Thanks, Flying Elk. A gold play button. I ain't got the silver one yet. I haven't got enough subscribers to get a silver one. It'll be a long time coming. Right, this will be the last one. Andy Bryant. I have a Mark I Focus 2-litre gear, W-Reg, good nick, had it 8 years with no serious problems. I watched all your videos. I've always had forwards. But that's great if you haven't had any problems because you haven't spent no money. You've been able to spend your money on shopping and PlayStation games and all kinds of interesting shit like that. But that's great. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining the live stream. I know it's all like answering just comments and stuff like that. If I do come across one particular topic I can actually just ramble on about, I will do. There are a few, but it's sort of like whenever I get onto these live streams, all I get is like loads of comments and questions. So I'm just going through people's questions and seeing if I can answer some of them and maybe be some of help. But anyway, I'm going to call it a night. So thanks everybody for stopping by. Have a good one. I will be live again, maybe at the weekend or maybe at the latest next Wednesday. So
Powered by a stream.
See you later and adios.